Hey there everyone, Paler here, and welcome back. So finally, months of waiting, months of no content, we have something Star Citizen Alpha 3.0 to show off. This is the 3.0 PTU. And yes, I'm clarifying PTU because this is not what they entirely plan to publish to everyone. It's more of another version of a stress test in which they're trying out some of the network environment, things along those lines. They're opening it up. Really what they're doing though, they're trying to get it into more people's hands so more people buy ships. That's what it's coming down to. This is around the holiday sale, not the holiday sale, the anniversary sale, and they want to sell more. We'll talk about that here in a moment. First, let me set the groundwork of what this video is all about. So you'll notice this one's pretty long, about 50 minutes worth of length. And what it is I wanted to give you as raw of a base impression of the initial this is Alpha 3.0 PTU as possible. I didn't want to do a super cut of, the really good stuff or the really bad stuff, because that could be very, it doesn't actually give you a good indicative indication of how good the gameplay is. If I played for 5-6 hours, I could make an 8-10 minute video of just highlights and make it look really good when it could be really bad. I could also do all negative stuff, all problems, and make it look really bad when it's actually really good. Realistically, it's somewhere in the middle. It's coming along. You can see the base structure there. You can see a lot of the core features are starting to be implemented, but there's also still a lot of bugs. That's realistically where the Alpha 3.0 PTU is sitting, and I wanted to just give that as raw as I could. So the footage you're watching in the background is my first life playing Alpha 3.0. The only thing being edited out is the load screen. There's one or two. I can't remember if I went back to the main menu right now. I'm doing the editing after I record this. So there's one or two load screens that are being removed simply because even off of an SSD and an M.2 SSD, they're still quite long. They're a minute to minute and a half of just a black screen of loading. So I'm going to get that out of there. Beyond that though, it's unedited, uncut. This is the footage of the game I was playing. So you can draw your own conclusions of, is it ready, what you think going on and all that. I am going to do more videos after this where I will talk a little bit more about the key features, pluses, minus, things that I've found going forward. But this is just for you to make your own first impression. I really don't expect anybody to watch all 50 minutes, but maybe if you got nothing going on, you got a second monitor, you might throw it up there. You can see what's going on, how it's playing out right now. Okay, so now I am going to talk for another 8 minutes or so, just give you a little rundown of my initial impressions. And I would say like the way I would clarify or classify 3.0 PTU, Alpha, PTU, whatever, is buggy but not broken. So what I mean here is there's a lot of little nuanced things that are a pain in the ass right now in the build. Just little things right off the bat, and you're probably watching this footage right now of me fighting with the mobiGlas, where there's this little bug where if you hit like F1 to close the mobiGlas, well, since F1 is also the open the mobiGlas, it seems to like close it, then reopen it, and then close it. And then when you try to move, it thinks the mobiGlas is still open. It gets confused. It doesn't know what state the mobiGlas is in. So you'll see I can spin in circles because my mouse controls I have, but I don't have WASD control. So then I have to like reopen it, try left clicking the X button, right clicking my close it. And eventually I do manage to get it to close down, and I'm able to then go about moving around. But this was 3, 4, 5 minutes worth of my initial impressions of me trying to get rid of the mobiGlas so I could go about doing what I need to do in order to move. In fact, the mobiGlas itself seems to have some problems. Later on, I'm going to be trying to buy, I think this is in the footage, it might not be, but I'm just trying to buy a weapon, just trying to buy a marine weapon, an SMG and everything. And you go up and you can interact with it, you can see it, and you click to purchase, and it's supposed to open on your mobiGlas, like a screen to purchase it, and it opens it for about half a second before it closes it, reopens it on the default, like your status screen, which shows like your health, your oxygen levels, but not the purchase screen. And then there's no way to navigate back to the purchase screen in order to get it. Now, this was already addressed a little bit, so this footage was recorded Friday. Saturday midday my time, they pushed out a patch that was only like 500, 800 megabytes, but that does seem to have corrected some of the mobiGlasses. So when I played Saturday afternoon, I was actually able to go into the storefront, buy some guns and stuff, equip those weapons. The mobiGlas was working better. It still sometimes goes through the double animation, But even though it goes through the double animation, it still ends up closed and you're still able to interact with things. And it still brings up the correct store page. So they are patching this right now, but that is going to be what you see. And that's kind of what I mean by buggy but not broken. So it was buggy, which prevented me from using the shop correctly, which made it tough in order to get out of the mobiGlas. But even beyond, despite that, I was still able to go down, spawn a ship, get the Cutlass out, all this, fly down to a planet, do all these other things. I was still able to do, so the gameplay still went. I would actually say overall server performance and client stability, I've been kind of impressed with. This doesn't mean it's great. You still, the longer you're on the server, the more assets are spawned in, the server performance starts to tank. I started off running about 40 FPS. It was me and like 4 other guys on that instance of the server. But as things happened over the course of this first 50 minutes, by the end of it, I was getting 15, 20 FPS, which is substantially less. And it was starting to feel chuggish because of that. However, in terms of hard crashes, I've only had, I would say 1, 2, depending on how you want to break it down. And the reason I would say 1 or 2 is 1 was a significant hard crash. I ended up in an instance where my controls were not responsive. Essentially, I tried opening the mobiGlas again when I was holding a two-handed weapon, and the game didn't know what to do. So like it was trying to ready the weapon in both hands, but also show me the mobiGlas on my left wrist. And it didn't know what to do, and it ended up where I could only move the mouse, nothing else was working. So like I'm trying all different control, alt clicks, just trying to see if maybe there's a hotkey to close the mobiGlas. And eventually I just input too many key combinations and it said, nope, and it killed the game. Gave me an error code, closed it all down, and I had to relaunch the game. So that was the one hard crash. I did have another pseudo crash where basically they took the server down and the game didn't know how to handle a disconnect. So rather than like in most games, you'll say you've been disconnected from the server, please try logging in again or whatever, but the game itself is still kind of running in the background. This didn't happen. What it did was like it initially popped up, message disconnect from server, then you got the error running and it kind of timed out and then closed. So, but they did take the servers down. After that, I had to wait about 2 or 3 hours for the servers to come back online. So I don't know if I classify that second one as really a crash so much as a disconnect. But yeah, overall for 4 hours of play, 1, 2 crashes, depending on how you look at it, I think is not terrible. It's not great, but compared to the 2.6 build, I would say it's pretty good. Once I got on the server, staying on the server felt fine. There was no real issues there. And all in all, like, that performance side of things seems to be okay. It's not great, but I would say it's okay. In terms of bugs, obviously, like I was saying, you have the mobiGlas acting up. They've already patched that one. It's better, but not perfect. I had a lot of trouble. The one thing I really wanted to do, and my main objective for most of this video, if you watch it, was basically spawn a ship, ideal a Cutlass, because it's the new reworked Cutlass. I really wanted to mess around with that ship. Throw a Nox or a Dragonfly in the back of it, fly down to a planet, and take that Nox out for a spin. This turned to be far more of a headache than I actually expected it to be. The thing is, like, you would spawn the Cutlass and it'd be on the landing pad, and you go out and you'd open up the back bay and everything, and you go back in and you'd spawn the Dragonfly or the Nox, and the Cutlass would despawn. It would take the Cutlass away. So like, all right, you go back and you spawn the Cutlass, and then the Dragonfly would despawn. Like, all right, so spawn the Dragonfly, get on the Dragonfly, pull it off of the landing pad, park it out somewhere, 100 feet away in space, get off of it, go back, spawn the Cutlass, go back out. Now I can't get back on the Dragonfly. It's sitting there, I can see it, but I can't interact with it. All right, so go back in, spawn a Nox, do the same thing, move the Nox off. Well, then that causes the Cutlass to despawn. Put the Nox off to the side, go back, spawn the Cutlass. Now I can get onto the Nox, come back in. At that point, I tried to get into the Cutlass with the Dragonfly, and what I found was the Dragonfly didn't register the ramp. So like you kind of just drag up the ramp into the bed of the Cutlass. But this also causes the physics, the hover physics, to get all weird and tries to launch you off to the side. It also gave me a bounty level, even though it was my own Cutlass. Since I was in possession of the Nox, I was piloting the Nox at the time and no one was in charge of the Cutlass, it considered me damaging like some other player's ship. So it wanted to give a bounty level against me. Tried to get up in there. Eventually it kind of got in there, and you'll have to watch the rest of the footage if you want to see that. I do eventually make it to the planet with a Nox, and it ends as spectacularly dumbly as it started off. This is something that would work better with 2 players. Honestly, like, with two people, this would be probably pretty easy. You have one person spawn the Cutlass, lift it up, get it off the landing pad, off to the side where it's out in 0G, someone gets a Nox, and then with the landing pad open, they just fly right in the back. And that way they don't have to worry about the ramp. You can just come in at the right elevation, land in the back of the Cutlass, boom, you're ready to go. And then if you want to rotate, the one person gets out of the pilot seat of the Cutlass, the other person gets into the pilot seat of the Cutlass, he goes back, spawns a Dragonfly, whatever, then you could have two of them in there and go. Unfortunately, with the limited release of the PTU, I was only me playing, so I couldn't really do that. You could also do that with ships like the Caterpillar or things along that line. So there definitely are workarounds for it. Again, buggy, not broken. Flying to planets, the new quantum system's awkward at best, I would say. You don't actually know you're getting ready to spool up to quantum. So the only way to get into quantum that I've been able to figure out is you go into the Moby Glass, open the star map, which is home key by default, by the way. Then you can select certain things. Now, it has to be a large enough body in order to be selected. So, for example, you can select any of the satellites that are orbiting the area or the moons. But like, you can't actually select, okay, you can zoom in and you'll see here's the moon, and then here's some of these places on the moon, be it an emergency shelter, a farming, a mining location. Well, you can't quantum directly to those locations. Instead, what you have to do is you have to quantum to the moon itself. Then once you're there, you can then set the destination to something smaller scale. So that took me a little while to figure out. But also, once you go into the Moby Glass, you say, all right, I want to go to Dalinar, not whatever, one of the moons or whatever. You say set destination, zoom back out. You don't actually know that your ship's ready to quantum. The only thing you do is you align towards the target, your destination, which is just a green rectangle or diamond, which is the same as everything else in the hood. And then you hold B and eventually it'll spool up and go. But there's nothing like telling you quantum ready or press B to quantum travel. It's just kind of, you do it and you go. It's kind of awkward and clunky. Whereas before you would hit B and it would kind of open up everything and you would kind of see, okay, here's the different targets I could quantum to, and you would align and hit B. This, you no longer have that. It's just start map, tell it destination, turn look, B. Once you understand it, it's not that hard, but initially it was kind of a real pain in the ass to do. Then once I did arrive at planets, I found that it's hard to tell where on a planet certain things are. So I thought I was approaching this like outpost or something down on the planet that was like 500 kilometers away. Well, it was technically on the other side of the moon. I was coming at it like going to go right through the center of the moon, and I ended up crashing right into the surface of the planet, which apparently they don't have the collision on, because I hit this thing doing like 900 kilometers an hour, and just all of a sudden, boom, there I am. I'm on the surface and like bouncing around like, all right, I guess we're gonna land here now, and landed. Yeah, sure, whatever. It worked, but I did manage to get to the moon, get to with an ox and everything, flying around. The flying on the surface didn't feel all that different. So I think one of the things that maybe has been pulled out of this current version of 3.0 is there's supposed to be different flight mechanics for in atmosphere and out of atmosphere. And at least for going into these moons, it doesn't feel much different at all. There is some of the entry, where you pass through the atmosphere and you get the cool cone tail effects and the flame effects over your ship, which looks really neat and everything. But it's like you're in deep space, you're in the upper atmosphere for like 4 seconds, and then you're right on the surface of the planet. It's a very abrupt change very quickly, and I didn't really notice any difference in flight mechanics between the surface and space. I really don't care, honestly. For me personally, that's a very minor thing. In fact, if it makes the game simpler and run better, I would say just have one unified flight mechanic of deep space and atmosphere. I realize some people that would be immersion breaking, but I'd rather have a slightly less immersive game that runs better than the full immersion that doesn't do too well, where all of a sudden you're entering the atmosphere and then the flight mechanics break. That wouldn't be good for me. Let's see. Yeah, overall, I don't know how to feel about 3.0. It's because of the way it was pushed out. It was clearly pushed to coincide with the sale. It clearly wasn't ready. And for the fact of how not ready it is, for how delayed it is, it's concerning. I've enjoyed what I've played with it. I really have. I've been impressed by a lot of the spectacle, a lot of the awe. I've enjoyed going down to the planets and stuff. I took a Vanguard out yesterday. Now, this isn't footage you're going to see, but a Vanguard Warden out, and was just skimming along the surface of a planet, messing around, and I enjoyed all of that. But it's all still clearly very buggy and not quite ready. And for it to be 8 months late, 6 months late at this point, and still be in this buggy of a state, that is concerning. It's going to be interesting to see over the next 6 weeks or so, if they continue to push updates, how it plays out. That's really going to be, to me, you know, how much of this is coming along, how much of this is still or is never going to be realized type of things. But I got to spend a little more time with it, really get down in there and see how well it's running, see how often they patch it before I do that. There will be further impressions coming along. I'll go into more in depth into little things here or there. But that's the initial rundown of this. It's about 15 minutes of me jabbering on. Let me know if you guys like the extended non-edited version so you can really get a good idea of it, or if it's just too much footage that you don't really care, and then I won't spend, uploading this is going to take 3 hours because of how long the footage is. So if no one cares about 15 minutes of unedited footage, don't need to spend 3 hours tying up my network, uploading it and all of that. All right, well, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll be back with more in-depth thoughts at some other point later on in the week. And until then, though, thanks for watching.
Got some new inventory and definitely worth taking a look. We've just received some exciting new products. Have a look. We got a lot of variety. Take your time and have a look.
Welcome to the Port Olizar ship deck. Please press the screen to continue. For our guests' safety, this station has been designated as an armistice zone. All weapons-
Your ship has been delivered to the following landing pad.
Space may be zoned. You don't have to.
Systems activating. Systems on. Engines off. Engines on. Alert. Deck crash close. Alert. Port crash close.
Welcome to the Port Olisar ship deck. Please press the screen to continue. We advise guests, please use caution when exiting the armistice zone, as weapons will once again become active. For our guests' safety, this station has been designated as an armistice zone. All weapons...
Your ship has been...
Space may be lonely. You don't have to. Save on resources and expenses. Join the ship share program today and fly together. Time's up to get into exit air orbit. Assume you will be safe to do so. This station has been designated as an armistice zone. Tampering with weapon safety protocols is strictly forbidden. This station is a proud member of the Ship Share program, encouraging travelers to safety. Welcome to the Port Olisar ship deck. Please press the screen to continue.
Engines off. Shields fully charged. Shields off.
Hello and welcome aboard your Drake interplanetary craft. Your systems are online. Launch complete. Landing complete. Engines online. Launch complete. Landing complete. Landing gear up. Landing gear down. Landing gear up. Chaff launched. Quantum drive is now on. drive is now off. Engines offline. Engines online. Engines offline. Engines online. Landing gear down. Shield system